I think this is going to be a very critical week. This week is going to be a really important week in which we have to make a determination about whether this is an endeavor that we want to continue to be involved in, or if it's time to sort of focus on some other issues that are equally, if not more important in some cases. But we want to see it happen. There are reasons to be optimistic, but there are reasons to be realistic, of course, as well. We're close, but we're not close enough.
This is my video update on this Sunday afternoon, April the 27th, coming to you from Paphos, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the news that the man who assassinated the Russian general the other day was captured by the Russian FSB. This guy's name is Ignat Kuzin, I believe. Anyway, he was captured by the Russian FSB, and he gave a statement which has been published. And in the statement, he said that he started following the general from 2023, and he was given orders by Ukraine Intel, SBU, military intel, Budanov, all of these guys, to follow the general. And eventually he actually rented a flat in the same building as the general. And what he was ordered to do was to place a bomb in a car, which would be next to where the general would drive, and then Ukraine would detonate the bomb, and that's what happened. So in his statement, he said that he placed the bomb, and when the general was in his car passing by, the bomb in the parked car was detonated by Ukrainian officials. I imagine he was talking about, or he meant that people in Ukraine, I guess is what he was saying, detonated the bomb remotely. So that was what he said in his statement. And if he's talking about Ukraine Intel, then you have to imagine he's talking about, when he says Ukraine Intel, then you have to assume CIA, MI6, all of those guys, because we know from Washington Post and New York Times articles from about a year and a half ago that the CIA and British Intel were very much involved in training Ukraine SBU and Intel services, military intel, and even Budanov was trained by the CIA for many years, going all the way back to 2015, right after the Maidan coup. So that was his statement, and we will see what Russia does next. We will see what the retaliation will be, if any. Not the first time that we've had Russian military officials assassinated inside of Russia. Not the first time that Ukraine Intel has assassinated Russian military officials, journalists, and other people have been targeted by Ukraine Intel services inside of Russia many times over the past 3+ years. Anyway, that was some of the news, some of the big breaking news from yesterday. Out there in the distance, let me zoom in here. You can see one of the many shipwrecks around Paphos. There's actually a very famous shipwreck all the way down that way, and there's a restaurant that you can go to, which is right next to the shipwreck, but this one is a bit further out. But I think you guys can see it. Okay. So the other big news from yesterday from Russia was the announcement by Gerasimov and Russian President Putin that Kursk has been fully liberated. Gerasimov said that 76,000 Ukrainian soldiers were KIA. I believe that's what Gerasimov said. I think he put the number at 76,000, yeah. The Kiev regime lost more than 76,000 troops in its incursion in Russia's borderline Kursk region, Valery Gerasimov said. So they liberated the final town or village of Gornal, and then Gerasimov, he told Putin via video that Kursk has been fully liberated. And in his statement, Gerasimov, he actually thanked the soldiers of North Korea. So Gerasimov admitted that North Korean soldiers were in Kursk, operating in Kursk, which means that North Korean troops were in Russia. That's what it means. That's what we've said on this channel many times. So what if North Korean troops are in Russia, in Kursk, in Vladivostok, in Moscow, wherever? They are in Russia, and Russia can let any troops they want into their country to train, to participate in any activities, military activities. Doesn't matter. That is Russian territory, and that is what Gerasimov said. And he said that under this strategic cooperation, this partnership that Russia has with North Korea, North Korean troops. He didn't give a number, by the way. And my sense is that we're talking about not a huge number of troops, a relatively small number of troops. But anyway, Gerasimov said that the troops came to Russia, they trained. He said they learned how to, or he didn't say this, but one of the military analysts in the region actually put out a statement and went into a little bit more detail. And he said that the North Korean troops, they came to Russia, they trained, they learned how to operate drones, and they fought with the Russians in Kursk to liberate Kursk. Gerasimov didn't get into many details at all. He just basically thanked North Korea. And it was a military blogger, a Russian military blogger who was in Kursk, who actually provided a little bit more details. Not much, not many details. Like, for example, we don't have the number of North Korean troops that were in Kursk. The numbers that we got from Collective West media was, and the Zelensky regime was, at first it was 3,000, 2,500, 3,000, then it went up to 10,000, then it went up to 15,000, then it went up to 50,000, and some publications were saying 100,000 plus, but that's nonsense. That is nonsense. I think it was a relatively small number of troops. Armchair Warlord said, considering how little evidence ever emerged that North Korean troops were fighting in close combat, it's likely any KPA detachment on the ground in Kursk was small, perhaps a battalion in a core brawl. In fact, I suspect the Ukrainians never positively identified the element. I agree with that. I think throughout the whole 9 months of fighting in Kursk, Elensky released, I think, 2 photographs of North Korean troops who were killed, and they had that note with them. Remember that story of 2 North Korean troops that were killed, and Elensky released the photo, and they had some note attached to them which said, we've been ordered to self-delete if we're captured, or something like that. And that was it. There were some other photos that were released of of bodies in snow, but you couldn't make out what that was. It would have like 20 or 30 bodies in the snow, and the Zelensky regime would say those are North Korean troops, but you couldn't make out anything, to be quite honest. The fact that there was such little evidence of North Korean troops, or that the Ukraine military did not manage to capture any North Korean troops like they captured the Chinese guy, Renbo, not Rambo, Renbo, Renbo. The fact that they didn't capture any North Korean troops alive, I don't think they captured any alive, but that shows you that there must have been very few North Korean troops, or perhaps there weren't many on the front line, and there were probably more in the rear, and maybe doing other activities, drone operation, stuff like that. Anyway, the admission from Gerasimov that there was a North Korean presence, and he thanked them, and I know why he publicly came out and thanked them, or at least my guess. I don't know why. My guess as to why he publicly thanked them is because this was probably asked by Kim Jong-un, by North Korea, because North Korea does provide Russia with artillery shells. They did provide Russia with millions of artillery shells about 2.5 years ago, and there are reports saying that North Korea continues to manufacture artillery shells for Russia. And I bet you Kim Jong-un, he said, look, I would like my soldiers to train, to get combat experience. And now that Russia has defeated NATO, they defeated Ukraine in Kursk, they defeated NATO in Kursk, the collective West was defeated. This looks really good for Kim Jong-un. This looks very good for Kim Jong-un in North Korea. He can go to his people, show his people. The powerful North Korean military was able to defeat the collective West and NATO. Yeah. Very good optics for North Korea's leadership. So I believe that's why Russia publicly came out and said that North Korean troops were operating in Kursk. It looks very good for North Korea that they defeated NATO. But for the collective West, I will say this: they're going to jump on this admission from Russia. They are going to jump on it, and you know what they're going to say? They're going to say that the Russian military is weak. It's lost many men. It's on the brink of collapse. It's so weak and it's in such a bad state that they had to get the North Koreans to fight for them in Kursk. That is exactly what the collective West media is going to say. Actually, one second, Politico, I think I have it bookmarked here. They came out with an article already with the title, Russia Claims Complete Liberation of Kursk, Admits North Korea Assistance. It's the first time the Kremlin has acknowledged the estimated 11,000 North Korean troops fighting for Moscow in the region. So you're going to get a lot of stories now in the collective West about how the Russian military is right on the brink of collapse. And I will say this, Russia probably did lose some leverage by coming out with this admission. Maybe they should have provided a number, but probably they can't provide a number as to how many troops are there. But you're now going to get all kinds of stories saying 10,000 North Korean troops. 11,000 is what Politico is saying. You're going to get some numbers now saying 30,000 or 50,000 or 100,000, or the entirety of the Russian military is now all North Korea. They'll come out with some crazy stories. And it's all going to be meant to try and portray the Russian military as collapsing, which will then lead to collective West leaders saying we need to absolutely give more weapons and more money to Ukraine, because if we can just fight a little bit longer, then the Russian military will finally be defeated. And Zelensky's going to say the same thing, and it's going to reach Trump's ears. And Russia probably did lose some leverage by coming out with this statement. They probably should not have said this, but then again, I imagine, as I said before, that North Korea probably asked Russia to come out with this statement. That's just my take on it. Probably not the statement for Russia to make if they wanted to not give the collective West any type of talking points with regards to the military operation, which is what they've now done. So for the next couple of weeks, buckle up, because we're going to get all kinds of stories about the collapsing Russian army and how without North Korea, the Russian army would be nothing. We're going to get those stories now. And you know, the collective West and the Zelensky regime, NATO, they never talk about their involvement in the fighting. They never talk about their involvement ever. Who knows how many tens of thousands of collective West military are fighting, have been fighting in this conflict, but they never talk about it. They just label them as mercenaries. Anyway, that's the update there. By the way, Putin, he issued a statement as well, and he said, congratulations on the victory to the Russian military, to Gerasimov. He said the Kiev regime's adventure has completely failed, and the huge losses suffered by the enemy, including among the most combat-ready, trained and equipped, including with Western models of equipment, forces of the Ukraine armed forces, and these are assault units, special forces, will certainly be reflected along the entire line of combat contact. The complete defeat of the enemy in the Kursk borderland creates conditions for further successful actions by our army in other important areas at the front, brings the defeat of the neo-Nazi regime closer. So it sounds like from this statement from Putin that without a doubt Russia's going to press forward, no doubt about it. And I believe that Gerasimov actually talked about Russia's foothold in Sumy, that they have a nice, strong foothold in Sumy. So in the statement, you could assume that that Russia is going to absolutely be preparing for some sort of offensive in the next few months, now that Kursk is wrapped up. And perhaps one of those directions is going to be from the Sumy direction. The Sumy direction, and many analysts believe that another offensive is going to take place from the south. So anyway, that's the statement from the Russian president. And I think now we can move on to Trump's latest post on Truth Social. Trump's latest post on Truth Social with regards to Project Ukraine and Russia. He posts all kinds of other stuff. But with regards to Project Ukraine and Russia, Politico says, Trump says Putin may not want to stop the war in Ukraine. The post came shortly after Trump met with Elensky in Rome. What did I say yesterday? What did I say yesterday? Prepare for a Trump statement after meeting with Elensky. 15 minutes, a 15-minute meeting with Zelensky, a couple of minutes with little Napoleon Macron, and expect Trump to bash Putin. And that is exactly what he did. That's Trump, everybody. That is Trump. The last person that tells him something is what he then posts on Truth Social. So if Trump hears something from one of his White House aides or other world leaders, he then goes on Truth Social and and posts it. Oh my God! So yeah, he bashed Putin once again. A very long post on Truth Social. I won't read you the full post. He talks about how this is Biden's war and Obama's war. So it's now Biden's war and Obama's war. He's not wrong about that, by the way. But he also provided the javelins, the beautiful wonder weapon javelins, as he says. He says the beautiful javelins. I say the wonder weapon javelins that turned out to not be much of a wonder weapon, of which Russia ended up obtaining a huge stockpile of javelins. Russia has so many javelins now that it has more javelins than the entire UK military. But anyway, that's a separate video. But he talks about how this is Biden and Obama's war. He's just trying to fix their mess. So that's pretty much the first half of this Truth Social post, a little more than the first half. He talks about how it was Obama who allowed Russia to steal, who made it possible for Russia to steal Crimea. Okay, without a shot being fired. Without a shot being fired is true, but it wasn't steal Crimea. Trump doesn't mention, I don't think he mentioned the U.S. Newland cookie-sponsored coup, did he? No, he doesn't mention that. He talks about how the New York Times is bashing him. The failing New York Times. Anyway, let me get down to the part where he bashes Putin. 1 second here. I'm just trying to clean up the mess that was left to me by Obama and Biden, and what a mess it is. With all that being said, there was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas, cities and towns over the last few days. It makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently through banking or secondary sanctions. Too many people dying. Yeah, it's Putin that is stringing you along, Trump. Not the Green Goblin, not NATO, not Macron. It's Putin that is stringing you along. Yeah, okay. Whatever he heard from Elensky and Macron, he's just repeating it. I wouldn't take this post too serious. And then he's talking about secondary sanctions, banking sanctions. That's Lindsey Graham influence right there. To place 500% sanctions on Russia's shadow fleet. There's Russia's shadow fleet right there. There it is. The ghost ship of Russia. Yeah, Lindsey Graham wants to place 500% secondary sanctions. Anyone that dare sell Russian oil will face 500% sanctions. That'll be good for the U.S. economy that is now in a tariff war with China. Good policy, Lindsey Graham. Anyway, yeah, it's Putin stringing him along. He's just trying to fix the mess. No need to talk about the U.S. is German. The U.S. is command and control center in Germany. No need to talk about that. I don't know if that's been dismantled or if that's still around. I think it's been dismantled or it started to be dismantled. But we don't have to talk about that, do we? No, we don't have to talk about that, Trump. You're the mediator. You are the mediator. Right? Right. He's just trying to stop the conflict. He's just trying to mediate. Putin is tapping him along. Oh, man. Nonsense, man. Absolute nonsense. Anyway, basically now you know what Elensky told him. With this Truth Social post, now you know exactly what Elensky and Macron told him. He sat down with Zelensky in Italy, and Elensky said that Putin is stringing you along. You can't trust Putin. He's firing missiles into Ukraine, into towns and cities, and you need to put more sanctions on Putin. And Trump heard all of this, and he went back to where he was sitting, and he got on his phone, and he posted on Truth Social what I just read to you. That's exactly how all of this went down. That's exactly how all of this went down. Bilateral talks between the two parties involved in this conflict, Russia and the United States. That is what is needed. And That is what Trump needs to fully understand. So the interesting thing about the meeting with Zelensky, yesterday in my video, I said that no doubt Macron put the meeting together, and that is exactly what happened. We've gotten a lot of video now of the 15-minute meeting that took place between the Green Goblin and Trump. And the video that came out shows that 3 chairs were being set up, and Macron was going to join them for the meeting, but then it looks like there's no sound in any of the videos that have been released, but it looks like Trump told Macron, "No, you sit this one out. I'm going to be meeting with the Green Goblin, mano a mano." And it looks like Trump put a stop to Macron actually being there for the meeting. You see, Elensky, he needs Macron. He needs Macron's support. He needs Macron to hold his hand, right? But Trump isolated Elensky. Smart move by Trump. He isolated Elensky so they could sit down for 15 minutes and talk. And Macron was sidelined. I bet you Macron did not like that. But, you know, Macron is a vassal. He's a vassal to the U.S. And good on Trump. Good on Trump for telling Macron to take a hike. I guess it shows that Macron's cologne, what's it called? The Eau de Sauvage, whatever it's called, Christian Dior, I believe. Eau de Sauvage looks like it's wearing off. Maybe Macron needs to unbutton his shirt a little more, show that chest hair. Yeah, the Eau de Sauvage is not working on Trump. Emmanuel Macron. Oh, man. Good on Trump. Good on Trump. And I think that's meaningful that he did not allow Macron to sit in at this meeting. He wanted to talk to Elensky, and we know what Elensky told him, because I read you the Truth Social post. I wonder what Trump told Elensky. Most likely to accept his peace plan. That is probably what Trump told him. Anyway, Trump will post something on Truth Social tomorrow, which will be completely opposite of this, right? Or he will just go along with Lindsey Graham and the secondary sanctions. Lindsey Graham posted on X, "I very much appreciate POTUS at Real Donald Trump and his team working diligently to end the war in Ukraine that was created by Putin's barbaric invasion in an honorable and just way. As the additional sanctions on Putin's Russia, I have bipartisan legislation with almost 60 co-sponsors that would put secondary tariffs on any country that purchases Russian oil, gas, uranium, or other products. The Senate stands ready to move in this direction and will do so overwhelmingly if Russia does not embrace an honorable, just, and enduring peace." I dare you, Lindsey Graham, to go ahead and start secondary sanctioning Russia. Go ahead, Lindsey Graham. Go ahead. Do it. Do it. Lindsey Graham. Clown, man. Yeah. This war was created by Putin's barbaric invasion. Never mind all the videos of Lindsey Graham hanging out in Kiev circa 2015, 16, 17. There's a very famous video of Lindsey Graham with John McCain speaking to some Azov guys from like 2016 or 17. I'm sure everyone has seen that video. Yeah, it was Russia. Russia did all of this, Lindsey Graham, right? Yeah, right. Anyway, let's talk about the funeral, the Pope's funeral, because unfortunately, it became a political event. Very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate that Giorgia Meloni, that the Vatican, that they allowed this funeral to become a political summit and to be taken over by the Green Goblin, by Elensky. But before we get into that, I just want to show you guys this amazing church and the amazing view from this church. I believe this is the Seaside Banaya. That's what this church is called. It's very small, but basically you walk. Actually, let me do the full effect. Let me do the full effect here for everyone. So you come down the steps or the ramp, right? You come down. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. Absolutely tiny church. Church, beautiful tree right there. So the Pope's funeral that turned into Elensky's little PR moment. You know, if I was Trump, honestly, if I was Trump, if I was the team advising Trump, if I was on his team, which I'm not, I'm just a guy with a camera making videos. But you know what I would have told Trump? And I'm being serious now. I would have told Trump, you know what? If you have to speak with Zelensky, do it, but no photos and no videos. That's what I would have said. Or I would have told Trump, tell Zelensky, now is not the right moment to sit down and speak. That's what you should have told Zelensky. When I get back to Washington, call me, but this is not the right time and place for us to talk politics at the Pope's funeral. That would have been the absolute proper response. Or, okay, I'll give you 10, 15 minutes before I get on the plane, Air Force One, to go back to the US, but no cameras, no videos, nothing. What do you want, Green Goblin? That would have been the other thing I would have told Trump to do. Instead, they got the cameras, they got the video, they set up the chairs, 3 chairs. They took 1 chair away, it became 2 chairs. We have all of the photos, and we have we have people like Piers Morgan, Piers Morgan, Putin. Say it, Piers, Putin. That's how Piers Morgan says Putin. He can barely say the word Putin. Putin is a dictator. Putin. Piers Morgan. That's my Clown World video over. Anyway, Piers Morgan put out a post on X, and he said, wow, what a picture, with Trump sitting next to Zelensky. And there's other people saying, this is a historic picture. This is history in the making. This is historic. What's historic, man? Trump sitting down with the Green Goblin. Ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. That's what he should have told Zelensky. Instead, they got all the photos, they got all the videos, all the posts on social media, and it was completely inappropriate. The whole thing was completely inappropriate. But you know, Giorgia Meloni, Italy, the Vatican, they facilitated it. They let it happen. They shouldn't have let it happen. You want to speak with Zelensky? Go to the U.S. Embassy. Go to the U.S. Embassy. Right? Once the whole ceremony is over, tell Zelensky to go to the embassy and he can meet with Trump there. That would have been the proper thing to do. That would have been the moral thing to do. The respectful thing to do. Elensky, he didn't stop at Trump. He didn't stop at Trump. He posted videos and photos of him hanging out with Stammer, hugging Stammer. Hugging Stammer. Hugging Keir Stammer. Yep. Nice big old hug from Stammer. And then they're walking around wherever they are, and they're talking about how bad Russia is and how bad Putin is, and the coalition of the willing, which is no more. And they're talking about very serious stuff, Keir Starmer and Zelensky, and that video was posted. And then Zelensky posted a video of himself with little Napoleon, and they're walking and they're talking about serious stuff, and they're strategizing how to defeat the Putin. And then he posted a video hanging out with Ursula von der Cowboy. Howdy, Zelensky. Yep, with Ursula. And they're talking about Putin and how bad Putin is, and Ukraine entering the EU, preparing the path for Ukraine to enter the EU with Ursula. And he posted all kinds of photos and videos with all of these world leaders who went to to the Pope's funeral, and it turned into a political show. Look at the lizard. Look at that lizard. Oh, wow. He's not moving. So, yeah. Now, someone like Julian Assange and his family were also at the funeral, but they showed respect. They were respectful. They stayed out of the media. No statements, not that I know of. No pictures with any world leaders, with Trump, I don't know, anybody. They went, they paid their respects because, from what I understand, Pope Francis really tried to help Assange, and that was it. You see, that was respectful from Assange. All the other world leaders, they used the Pope's funeral to have a little political summit, to strategize how to continue the war. They used the Pope's funeral to strategize how to continue the war. Shame, shame, shame. Biden was also there with Dr. Jill and Joe Biden, but they weren't sitting in the front. They were sitting somewhere in the back. I wonder if Biden even knew where he was. But anyway, yeah, and the Vatican, man, the Vatican. They actually sat Elensky in the front row when they shouldn't have, because usually the seating arrangement is done in the French language, and in French it would have meant that the U.S. would have been sitting in the front, but Ukraine in French would have meant that if you went in alphabetical order, Ukraine would have been in the second or third row. It would have been in the back rows if you're going by alphabetical order in the French language. But no, you know what the Vatican did? The Vatican came out with some silly excuse, saying there was an empty seat because someone didn't show up. And there was an empty seat up front, and so they made sure Zelensky sat at that empty seat. So with that being said, let's do a clown world. Wrap up this video, and we'll stay with the funeral of Pope Francis. And the collective West media, they are hyper-focused on Trump's inappropriate attire at the funeral. From the Daily Mail, Donald Trump is accused of breaking the dress code at Pope Francis's funeral. New York Times says Trump's blue suit at Pope Francis's funeral draws attention. The Mirror says Donald Trump branded disrespectful in blue suit at Pope Francis's funeral. And The Independent says Trump accused of Pope Francis funeral faux pas after breaking dress code, then leaving early. So Trump wore a blue suit, a dark blue suit. Prince William, I believe, wore a light blue suit, actually, a much lighter suit than Trump's. But the collective West media is hyper-focused on Trump's dark blue suit. I don't think it's that big a deal, to be quite honest. It looked very, very dark to me. I don't know, but they're saying it's blue. Okay. Let's focus on, and they're doing this because they want to focus on Trump. So you got to make Trump look bad while not focusing on Zelensky's combat boots and his dress shirt. And they're actually people commenting and saying his dress shirt is really expensive. I've seen that in some media articles talking about how Zelensky was very well put together. He was still in combat mode. He was still in character, but he wore some very, very nice stuff, right? Some very nice shirts, a very nice shirt to this event. It's like, so what? So he wore an expensive dress shirt It's still not a suit. It's still not a tie. And he was absolutely dressed inappropriately. I don't care if his combat boots are $200, I don't know, Timberlands or whatever, $300 Timberlands. I don't care. You're supposed to wear dress shoes. You're supposed to wear a tie. You're supposed to wear a suit. End of story. Expensive, not expensive. That is the proper attire. So they're hyper focused on Trump. You make Trump look bad, while at the same time you avoid talking about the disrespect that Elensky showed. And he showed it in his attire. He showed it with the way he took over the ceremony and held all the meetings and everything that he posted. Anyway, let's wrap it up with Elensky's BFF, his Hollywood BFF, Sean Penn, who was in Kiev the other day, and he showed his support to the Green Goblin. Sean Penn does not look well, by the way. He does not look well at all. But he showed his support to the Green Goblin, and Sean Penn also got a tattoo. He tattooed on his wrist that trident thing. I don't know what it's called, but it's what Elensky has on his shirts. This is the symbol of Ukraine. I still don't quite understand it, but anyway, he tattooed the trident on his wrist. Sean Penn. Yeah. Might as well have tattooed a heart saying "mom" or something. That would have that's going to age better than than what he put on his wrist anyway. That's the video update. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch like what I'm wearing in this video update. The link is in the description box down below. 15% off. Use the code SPRING15. Take care.